Tonight, WRB's undefeated Real Steel champion, Zeus, takes on his challenger, Adam, the surprising underdog trained by former middleweight boxer Charlie Kenton. This unlikely toe-to-toe has been hyped by many as a modern-day David and Goliath. Adam rocked the robot boxing community earlier this year in an undercard fight that garnered more attention than the main event.
This was unprecedented. This is the first time you've got a bot from the underworld going up against official WRB bots.
I've never seen a sparring bot fight an actual boxing bot.
All the other robots, they're big, they're strong, and Adam is quick, and he fights like a human.
That's what made the difference to the Twin Cities fight. No one's talking about it, but humanity is back in the ring. That's what's going on here. I mean, I think the shadow mode has a lot to do with that. And if the Lemkovers were smart, they'd be watching Charlie Kenton.
I don't care enough about him to discuss. Next question.
Charlie Kenton is excrement of an extinct sport.
Charlie Kenton, a relatively unknown human boxer, found himself in the limelight that avoided him during his boxing days.
It's been a long time since I've been on ESPN. Last time I was on some highlight reel, I was getting my ass kicked.
I got some respect for him. I mean, he's a big guy and he got a decent bite, but I don't think he got no chance there.
I think what we're going to see on Saturday night is kind of opponent that Zeus has never faced before. Atom's changed the game. Now we've actually got a fight on our hands. We've got a boxer who has all the grace, all the style, and the flair of a human boxer, and that's coming from Charlie. And, well, to know Atom is to know Charlie Kenton.
Sweat, not circuits. Conditioning, not coding. Heart, not hardware. It wasn't that long ago, but somehow we've forgotten. To get inside the mind of Adam's trainer, we must visit a time when humans, not robots, fought the fights. Charlie's road to the ring started early. His troubled childhood led him in a direction most don't recover from.
You know, it was pretty tough. My mom was not around for most of it, and my old man passed when I was 12. Piece those facts together, it doesn't take too much of an imagination to work out that probably left the wrong kid with too much time on his hands, if you know what I'm saying.
Charlie used to be the kid that used to get beat up all the time, and then one day he fought back and realized he could fight.
In and out of juvie, Charlie was heading nowhere fast. But as fate would have it, legendary boxing trainer Joe Talent happened to be walking by a nightclub on a night that would change both of their lives forever.
I wish Joe was here to tell you that story. He tells it pretty good over a glass of bourbon. That's a funny story.
Yeah. Well, you know, I figured as a 17-year-old pretending to be 23, I had every right to be in that club. Yeah, I was a stupid kid, and I was trying to impress a girl. And I took a swing at a bouncer who was a hell of a lot bigger than me, and it was actually one of my better punches, I have to say, but his friends didn't agree, and so I got pretty soundly beaten.
Joe sees this kid rolling around on the pavement with like 3 or 4 bouncers giving him it good, and so he wails in there, pulls the kid out, and he takes a mean right hook off him as a thank you.
First thing he said to me, he says, first of all, you're stupid, but second of all, you got a good right hook. So. And he says, now we're going to work on your left, which is pretty much what we did for the first 3 years.
Joe took him back to the gym that first night, and I don't think he ever left. I think that kind of became his home from that day forth. He needed somebody to believe in him, and that's what Joe gave him.
He probably saved me, well, probably from a hell of a lot of time in jail, I'm guessing.
Joe showed him how to fight from the head. He taught him about strategy, pacing himself, metering out his stamina, looking for his opponent's weaknesses.
It was frustrating. I just wanted to get in there and fight, and he wanted to teach me technique and wouldn't let me fight until I had it down. A lot of wax on, wax off, if you know what I'm saying.
I used to go and watch him box all the time because he was the guy, you know, from the neighborhood that was coming up that was really gonna make something of himself.
Charlie began fighting in local matches, winning a series of junior belts across North America. He demonstrated real talent and imagination within the ring. By 1997, he'd won the United States Amateur belt, getting the nickname the Can-Do Kid.
Charlie the Can-Do Kenton. Charlie the Can't-Do Kenton. is probably more appropriate. Now, you know, Charlie's a good guy, okay?
Man, I remember seeing Charlie fight and him just, you know, really giving guys a beat until he worked his way all the way up to the top. It didn't work out, but, you know, in his earlier days of his fight, he was great.
It's so funny, man. I never got asked about my boxing career by really anyone while I was boxing, but I had a 24-19 record, which basically anyone who knows math knows that that's not really much of a career, and I got knocked around a lot.
I think if he'd listened to Joe more, he probably would have had a chance, but I think he was too stubborn to do it.
I suppose the distinguishing factor was every fight that I fought was a knockout. I used to drive Joe crazy. He said that I could have won at least a dozen more fights if I just learned to take my foot off the pedal, but that was just not in my nature.
What kind of a person does that? You know, it's pretty darn selfish.
The guys I fought, that's probably the thing that scared them the most about me. They pretty much had to put me on the mat, or it was, or they were going on the mat.
In 2006, Charlie fought Ricky Fannin, a fellow Texan with a talent for brutality.
Charlie was favored in that fight. I was a little bit nervous, you know, because he's fast. I mean, he's a big fella, but he's fast. I'm a little bigger, but he is fast. But I knew that if I just read him right, I could just pop, get him with an uppercut, just that one uppercut, bang, out, done. Put him out, he's staring up at the ceiling, and the rest is history.
Despite the devastating loss to Fannin, Charlie was offered a bout against title contender Nico Tandy the following year. It was a major turning point in his career.
Nico Tandy was a top contender. He was, I think, #2 at the time in the world.
There was nobody betting on Charlie Kenton that night. This was a punk that he had to put down to get to Kemper Harris, who was the champion at the time.
He was on his way. He became the world champ for the next 3 years. So he was definitely on the rise, and I was put up against him to fight him. I didn't have a great record at the time. I got in the ring with him, and I just felt good. I just had this guy's number, and everything he threw at me, I could see. I hit him a couple of times, stung him, and I remember the look in his eyes. He was looking at me like, what the hell, this is not the deal. And from around 3 or 4, we actually had a decent fight. It was a real fight.
I think a lot of people expected him just to put in a decent performance, do his usual, maybe fall in the 3rd or the 4th, and take the payday and go home. But, man, he gave Nico Tandy a shock.
I love boxing. I loved a good fight. And this was about as good a fight as I'd had. And I told him my emotion takes over, and I had him.
All he had to do was play the game. He just had to dance around him. He was ahead on points. There was no doubt about that. He just had to hang in there, and Charlie was Charlie. Had to go for the knockout, didn't he?
Who cares? At the end of the day, around 12, he just clocked me out of nowhere. Came this punch, and that's probably one of Nico Tandy's best punches that I've seen. And I happened to be very close to the action, and he did not want me to get up.
When you look at the arc of his career, that was his moment. And I think a lot of it was downhill from that, unfortunately, for the guy.
The crushing defeat to Tandy would pale in comparison to the heartbreak that awaited him around the corner. Just months later, Charlie's mentor and surrogate father, Joe Talent, died. Charlie was lost.
For a long time there, he was pretty much like family. He was pretty much everything to me. And yeah, it was pretty hard when he died too. But if he was here, I'm sure he would have told you that he saw something in me, but that I was not a great listener, and that, in fact, I know he would tell you that I could have been a lot better if Charlie didn't get in Charlie's way, if you know what I'm saying.
Charlie still had one more punch coming his way. The final blow to his career came from an opponent no man could beat. A growing trend in his beloved sport was brewing.
For a long time, I'd been hearing about MMA and the popularity of it. So there was a definite sense that boxing was on the wane, and there was a sort of a growing disinterest in it. As we say in the UK, it wasn't putting as many bums on seats as it used to.
As a boxer, you know, nobody even cared about us anymore. You know what I mean? We were having fights and no one was showing up anymore, just fighting for ourselves. You may as well just fight in a bar or something.
It seemed like the days of boxing gloves were long gone. It was all about knuckles and blood and brutality.
I was glad Joe Talley wasn't around to see it because, you know, he would have hated it. He loved the idea of the beauty of the sport, the tactics, and, you know, it pretty much became just really violent and brutal.
You gotta remember, this is the time when that first robo-boxing scene was starting to come alive in Tokyo. And it sounded like a joke at first, and then we started seeing the videos on YouTube, and it got more serious. The sport had to change if it was gonna survive. I think we all had to change.
Boxing was the only thing I knew. A lot of the people within the sport of boxing started to move to robot boxing, tried to make the change. It's hard for you to understand, but when you're a boxer, it's everything. Everything since I was a kid, you know, 12, 13 years old. That's all I knew. It fit me, the whole thing, the kind of person I was. Boxing was a fit. Robot boxing is different. It's not really a perfect fit for me, to be honest, but I could still put the clothes on, do you know what I mean? I could still make it fit.
This sport, it is an art form, a high science.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, right? What are you gonna do, you know?
I've had to evolve. We've all had to evolve.
I got my own spot, got my own bite. I'm hard to beat.
You know, believe it or not, I actually had a little bit of dough when I left boxing, and so I used that money to buy a robot.
Yeah, were you there the first time he said he was turning his life around? Or this would be the last time, so maybe it'll work.
I won't lie to you, I think I was pretty much a bit of a joke around the place. I found it difficult to make that transition, and I pretty much scrapped around for years, trying to make a buck, make a living, get involved with the sport. It was my son that really was the turning point.
He might just be getting his final shot at the big show, and I think undeniably Max has got to have something to do with that.
Max is really the one you should be interviewing here. He's really the key.
I think he has a talent. I don't really tell him this a lot, but I think he's quite a good boxer, and I've been reading about him, and I think that does affect our fights with Adam.
It was amazing, the moves that he was making this robot do, and just really interesting footwork and intricate punching pattern.
Atom is what I've been waiting to see since the end of the human days. This is what boxing's about. Atom made me a believer.
He's an old-fashioned robot. He's not the biggest, he's not the strongest, but he's quick. He can take a hit. And with Zeus, that's important.
A shot against Zeus. Adam against Zeus? Boy, in your dreams. In your big dreams, you know what I'm saying?
What kind of question is this? Zeus is undefeated.
Oh, I'm predicting a beatdown.
Let me put it this way. It is like a pinball machine versus a stealth fighter.
I mean, seriously, do you see the size of that? You see the size of the other one? I mean, I don't know.
I'm more excited about Saturday night's fight than I've been about boxing in a long time, and that's robot or human boxing, and I think we're going to see something extraordinary. The real steel belt fights are always the hottest ticket in town, and this one couldn't be any hotter.
I think we have a chance. Adam never gives up.
Max always believed in him, and if it wasn't for his stubbornness and his belief, we wouldn't be here at the championship fight of the WRB.